Sitaram Yechury, ദില്ലിയിൽ കമ്മ്യൂണിസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടികളുടെ വാർഷിക ആഘോഷവുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് സംസാരിക്കുന്നു. തത്സമയം.
Already begun in global capitalism. Now, if this cycle continues at a higher spiral than what we saw between 2008 and 2014, then it will mean greater exploitation of the people in the future. Capitalism offensive currently is related to this deep crisis in its economy. And remember, all of us as communists remember with a lot of pain and anguish that when the capitalist economic crisis deepens, it provides a fertile ground for both the left to grow and the right to grow. In Latin America, we currently see the left growing and gaining greater support from people. In some countries, the support that they got is now eroding. There is a reversal. Argentina. And this is the dynamics that will continue. But the left alternative in Latin America, we must all remember as communists, is an alternative to neoliberal policy direction within capitalism. It is not the socialist alternative yet. We wanted it to. We are hoping, we are looking forward to these countries that will emerge to the level of a socialist alternative. But it is an alternative within capitalism against the neoliberal domination today. But what we communists are working for and working for is for the socialist alternative. Socialist alternative means that we strengthen ourselves in a what Leninist subjective factor, what you call, that is the capability of the communist parties in each country to develop an alternative political project on the strength of the people. That is the socialist project, the socialist alternative, that we are able to mount the class offensive against the rule of capital. That is our final quest, because there is no solution to this crisis under capitalism. The only solution is socialism. But to emerge to be a force to be able to achieve that, that is our quest in our countries. Precisely to stop us from going to that level as to challenge the rule of capital defines imperialist interventions. Imperialist interventions in this entire world, in order to overcome this crisis, it requires political hegemony, economic crisis. In order to control the economic resources so that it will be helpful for imperialism and capitalism to emerge from their crisis, it requires military interventions to control the economic reserves of the country. The whole conflict in West Asia is directly related to the imperialist control over its oil and gas resources. Afghanistan is crucial for imperialism because that is the only avenue through which its gas and oil reserves in Central Asia and West Asia can reach the seas so that they can be transported and profits earned. You require a compliant regime in Afghanistan to ensure that the profits of this control over natural resources can be reaped. So military interventions. What is happening in Syria? Wherever imperialism militarily intervened, it engendered the growth of fundamentalism. Such fundamentalism was used to attack the left forces, country after country, Iran, Iraq, and all of that, in Syria. And you find new Frankensteins that they have created. Taliban was their creation, now the ISIS is that creation, which will have a very strong anti-communist element. Well, that apart. But Asia becomes important for imperialism to emerge out of this crisis because it is the home for the largest population and it is the largest market, the control of which is essential for neoliberalism and global capitalism to not only emerge from this crisis but to prosper. And that is why you find two-thirds now, virtually, of the US naval fleet in the Asian region. And the regimes of the Asian region, where in our country also we'll have to, when we are combating, we will combat it together. There's a very sharp rightward shift of the governments particularly in South Asia. And this rightward shift is allowing not only an economic control over resources, but also a political military control. India recently was in a joint military exercises with USA and Japan called the Malabar exercises, navies. 2 years ago, we had a joint military naval exercise of India, USA, Japan, Australia and Singapore. Now what is the meaning of having in the Bay of Bengal a joint military naval exercise of USA, along with India, USA, Japan, Australia and Singapore? What is the political message being sent? That here are these Asian countries that are ranged against China. We want to interfere in the disputes in South China. I'm very happy that China and Vietnam today are discussing this issue. I only wish them all the best to try and resolve this across the table. That's in the interests of both the world and the communist parties in the world. And I only wish that they'll be able to resolve it. But this interference in the Asian region we will find in each one of our countries. And all of us in South Asia. Just look at the deteriorating relations between India and all our neighbors. Now with Nepal, this blockade issue that has come, with Sri Lanka, with the government, with Pakistan of course, but now with Bangladesh, with the rise of fundamentalism in Bangladesh. All this will be utilized by imperialism to try and keep the strength of the unity of the South Asian countries from actually emerging. And this is where I think the initiatives like the Shanghai Cooperation, the initiatives of the BRICS countries in forming the BRICS Bank, and if this succeeds, and we want it to succeed, this will be the very strong countervailing force to the current IMF, World Bank, the Bretton Woods institutions. And if this BRICS Bank succeeds, then we should be in a position to put up some resistance to these. So while in India we are working for improvement of our relations with our neighbors, but imperialist pressures are such, and the government of India is also succumbing to such pressures, not only in terms of economic reforms and changes, allowing FDI, as Comrade Sudhakar Reddy pointed out, but also in its political and foreign policy orientation. So this topic that we are actually discussing today is of great importance to not only the communist parties, but I think to all the progressive forces in our region and in Asia. So in this context, while we as communists would be working for changing the correlation of forces amongst the people in our country in favor of the socialist alternative, while this activity and struggles will continue, we should also, I think, and that is an important element, all of us are doing that work in each one of our countries, but there should be greater coordination in terms of within this region as well and in Asia to have an alternative policy trajectory to the neoliberal trajectory. And towards that, the cooperation between the various progressive forces in the Asian region is of great importance in order to pressurize our own governments and our own countries and to work out a better life for our people through an alternative to begin with within the system of capitalism to these neoliberal policies, and on that basis to move towards a socialist alternative that we as communists will continue to strive for. So I would only conclude by saying that since I've not read the paper that has been written, that we contributed, that you will have, that it is this seminar and on this occasion of the 90th anniversary that the CPI marks, the 95th anniversary that we shall mark. I mean, the Indian, solidarity with which all of you have come here, this should help us in forging greater bonds of solidarity amongst ourselves in order to resist the imperialist imposed changes that they want in our regions that will bolster their hegemony, that will help them emerge from their crisis at the expense of the people. To resist this, the progressive parties, particularly the communist parties, in our SAARC countries to begin with and in Asia, will have to come together, and I'm very happy to see not only the Chinese and the Vietnamese here and hoping that they'll resolve the South China problem across the table, but I'm here, not here. I mean, you're very ambitious, Paul. I'm not saying on this table, but that they'll be able to resolve it, and we want them to resolve it. We wish them all success. But Japan, the Communist Party of Japan, after 4-5 decades of non-militarization, the constitution prohibits military expenditures. Am I right, Kumran Malaki? But now they're also being roped into a renewal of their militarization. Now this is a very serious matter. So the Communist Party of Japan has to play a very important role, I'm sure. They are a very influential party in Japan, and they'll do that. So I'm very happy that all these parties are here together. I think we should all pool our resources and resist this imperialist efforts for strengthening its hegemony and its interference in Asia. That, I think, must be the progressive Asian response to this global capitalist crisis. Thank you very much for your.
Now it is inaugural.
1925 രൂപീകൃതമായ കമ്മ്യൂണിസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടിയുടെ 90ാം വാർഷിക ആഘോഷത്തിൽ ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് നടന്ന സെമിനാറിൽ സംസാരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു സീതാറാം യെച്ചൂരി. സാമ്രാജ്യത്വത്തിൻ്റെ സൃഷ്ടിയാണ് ഭീകരവാദം എന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞു. ചൈന ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള രാജ്യങ്ങളെ തോൽപ്പിക്കാനായി അമേരിക്കയുമായി ഇന്ത്യ കൂട്ടുകൂടുന്ന വിദേശ നയങ്ങളിലേക്ക് ഇന്ത്യ രൂപപ്പെടുന്നു എന്നും സീതാറാം യെച്ചൂരി നിരീക്ഷിച്ചു.